That should be the resolve of every Christian. Everyone who believes the Word of God ought to have the disposition ready to go fight sin, Satan, and all evil, and serve the Lord Jesus Christ. That's the resolve that everyone must have to please God. That's the resolve we must have to get to heaven. Good morning, brethren and friends. Welcome. This is Back to the Bible Study. I'm Leo Plyler. It's good for us. We delight in the opportunity of being with you by this means to study the Word of the living God. Be ready this morning as the opportunity permits to worship God, if that be your ability. I might mention that Gilbert Alexander is in very low condition at present time, and we're grateful that he served the Lord. So many of you knew him, having lived in this county, preached in this county, and taught school and retired from the Walker County school system, teaching at Cordova. We're grateful for the good that he did, the life that he lived. I study with you at this time the thought that is expressed in the book of Nehemiah. The man Nehemiah was troubled at the circumstances, the conditions that existed in his day. In the 13th chapter, verse 11 of the book of Nehemiah, the question is raised, why is the house of God forsaken? There was a reason for it. It was forsaken by the people, and the fact that it was forsaken indeed was sad. But that's not the subject. I'm going to use this thought for our subject. I want to talk with you again this morning concerning the home, the family, the fleshly family. These families that I speak of make up the church of the living God, the house of God. Why is the home forsaken? The family, the home, is in sad condition. It's a powerful question. It's a timely question. It's appropriate. While God's house was forsaken, the family today is forsaken. And as goes the family or the home, it's going to influence the church. So, seeing that the home, the family, is forsaken, it is needful that we consider the issue, the question of why is the home forsaken? It is a fact that the home is forsaken. In fact, the family, the home, in so many cases is in shambles. Now, the word shambles in the Bible carries the meaning of a slaughterhouse or a place of meat, a place of execution. It's come to mean in our day, we hear it occasionally, we use it occasionally. It means basically that which is in disarray, that which is in a place of desertion. And that's true with the family or the home. I'm not talking about a house now. I'm not talking about a nice place that people often call a home, which is nothing but brick, mortar, glass, plastic, and etc., that's a house. I'm talking about those who occupy that house. Why is the home in such condition as it is in today? Indeed, the idea of a slaughterhouse might be recognized because the destruction, the division, the disarray that's brought about, divorce, and indeed this brings death and destruction, disarray. And you know who are the recipients or the beneficiaries of a divided house or family? It's to a great extent the children. Divorce is not a product of good, and it is not good. God hates divorce. No couple should marry with the idea that they will divorce if any issue arises or trouble comes. They ought to go into marriage to make the family, to make it work, to be resolved and determined that each one will do all in his power to make the family what it ought to be. The family, the home, should be a happy place. It should be a place of tranquility and a place where happiness, peace reigns. But instead, home is often a place of confusion, trouble, quarreling, fighting, and yes, too oft times, even death comes about because of such a situation. Domestic problems and troubles disrupt and destroy the home. So the idea again of shambles or the slaughterhouse. How much weeping is brought into the family, made a part of the family. Why? Why should it be? Why need it be? It doesn't need to be. It shouldn't be. The God of heaven who created, ordained marriage, doesn't want it to be that way. Someone has said that the media portrays the average American housewife beginning her morning with a brisk game of tennis at the country club, and then the rest of her day spent shopping and eating lunch with friends. And then at home that she kicks up her feet, watches her favorite soap operas, and squeezes the centers of chocolates from that box. Well, she may then spend the rest of her day lounging in her pajamas and talking on the phone with friends while ignoring the children and the babies. Now that's too much the case, too often the picture. That is not what God designed the family to be. So the world's view of the housewife to go out and have fun and pleasure, spend her day, whether it be at the country club or the gym, and shopping. Oh, there needs to be some shopping, and there needs to be exercise, but not at the expense of the family, not at the expense of the children. There will need to be a lot of teaching, a lot of loving arms and instruction. Well, the children become the objects of injury. The husband also needs attention. He needs the loving arm and encouragement of his wife, just as she needs him. But we're speaking in terms of the wife primarily at this time, and we're not going to ignore nor neglect the fact that the husband has his definite role in making this home what it ought to be. In fact, perhaps the husband is the one who so often deserts, leaves, abandons the family, leaves them to go it alone. Yes, we need to learn, we need to return to God and the order that He gave for the home, the family. We must not allow the world to be the standard and the ideal or the example for the family. The family begins with a man and woman. This is what the Bible teaches. Genesis 2:24, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and cleave unto his wife, and they two shall become one flesh. Now I want you to notice, as this passage begins, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother. This implies that this man had a father and mother at home. And he, when he grows up, is to leave them, not to leave her nor to leave him singly, but to leave them. That thus implies that they were together, and that's God's arrangement. That's God's plan. And then this passage says, this man leaves father and mother and cleaves unto his wife. He stays with her. Though he works, he provides the livelihood, goes out to do what's necessary for that. He still lives with the wife, providing for her needs, his needs, the needs of the children, the needs of the family. So the family must begin with a man and a woman who resolve that they're going to live together after God's order, make a family as God would have it be. Man, as I mentioned, is to provide by his toil, Genesis 3:17. By his toil he's to provide the bread or the food for his family, according to Genesis 3:19. He is indeed the head of the wife, according to 1 Corinthians 11:3. Christ is the head of man, but the head of the woman is the man. Now, he is head, but he is not a tyrant. He is not a slave driver. He is one that the wife should have reason to desire to be with, to live with, to have as her husband and the father of her children. He owes it to her to be that kind of man. And she owes it to him to be the woman that he loves, is kind to, not bitter toward, the one that he wants to be the head of his children. That's the kind of family God has authorized. Yet, listen to what 1 John 2:17 says. The world passeth away, and the lust thereof. That's right, the world passeth away. Now this is in the context wherein the Lord through John said, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. For if any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world." Now the next expression is that which I'm calling your attention to. "And the world passeth away." What is the significance of this? Why, the significance is that if the wife and the husband make the family according to the example of the world, then it's going to pass away too. We need to realize how vital, important the family is, the home. Whether they have a nice house or just a rather simple, lowly shack, or even a tent. Old Testament characters lived in tents. We don't have to have a fine house. We don't have to have what is called a brick home, which is nothing but a house. We need a family, though, that is braced, fortified, strengthened, strong in the sight of God. The home, the family that is worldly, cannot and will not survive. There is going to be pressure applied by the devil to the family. He will seek to destroy it, to divide it, bring a divorce between husband and wife, and try to make the children godless, evil, wicked, disobedient. So it requires that the parents join hands in heart, resolve to instruct the children, to teach them what is right, and to insist that they do what is right. So we need to look and see that the children are not left to themselves. That's what is happening. That's so typical. When people become so enamored with the things of the world, things, and that's what people often want. They want to start out with things like mom and dad have after they've lived together 30, 40, or 50 years. So it may be that the husband and wife agree that they will both take jobs and leave the children with a babysitter or a daycare. Now, these matters, these arrangements may need to be at times, but every child needs a mother. Every child needs a father. And when do they need them? Once a week? No. They need them daily. They do not need to be abandoned. And children have been abandoned, and that's why the jails are filled. The penitentiaries are filled. And that's why the homes are broken. Parents have abandoned. Proverbs 29:15 says, "A child left himself bringeth his mother to shame." If he's not taught, not trained right, he's not going to go right. In the 6th chapter of Deuteronomy, beginning with verse 6, God told Moses to tell the people to teach their children. When are they to be taught? Occasionally, Sunday morning. He said, "Thou shalt teach them diligently the things that he instructed. Teach them unto thy children. Thou shalt talk of them when thou sittest in the house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down." So when you're sitting or walking or on the bed lying down, do what? Teach them. And also when thou risest up, teach them. Daily instruct them. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontness between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them upon the doorpost of thy house and upon thy gate. Think of it. Consider this. The intensity with which our children are to be taught when we walk, when we sit, when we lie down. The children are to be taught. They are to be taught so that the truth of God will stand out before them like a sign upon their hand, and as frontlets between their eyes, and upon the doorpost so they can see them when they go in and when they come out, and upon thy gates. That's intense. That's strong. Are we teaching our children like that so that they will know, be mindful of, and do the will of the Lord? In the New Testament, Ephesians 6 and 4, parents are instructed to bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Bring them up. Don't let them run loose like cats and dogs. Of course, some people today keep their cats and dogs housed up closely. But don't let the children run loose like wild animals, we'll say. Don't turn them loose and let them be raised by society. Don't leave it to the world. Don't leave it to the school to bring your children up. As we mentioned earlier, the idea that a housewife is one who goes out early in the morning to the golf course or the country club, the spa or the gym, and then spends much of the day in shopping and then on the phone or texting. A mother has a God-assigned role and place in the home, and she is thus to be a homemaker. God has a design for that. We need to get a clear view of God's design, God's portrait of the home and what it is to be. Oh, it's different to that of the world. God's design for a homemaker, the wife, the mother, is far different to the view that the world holds and has. The world's perception that a wife is one that runs fancy-free, loose, and from house to house. Paul said they're not to be that way, gossipers, but points out that like Hannah, who reared her son Samuel, or like Eunice and Lois, 2 Timothy 1 and 7, who reared her son, their son Timothy. That's the way it should be today. Children should be taught, well taught, that they can know. They don't need to be left to the streets, left to the neighbors, left to the school. They need to be at home. They need to have responsibility at home, chores to do, so they'll learn what work is. Let's point out again, the wise man said that a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. And then in the book of Proverbs, we have the portrait, God's picture of the mother, the homemaker. Indeed, according to Proverbs 31, she worketh willingly with her hands. She's not a deadbeat, not a lazy woman. That may be the picture that the world has, but that's not God's picture of the woman. She worketh willingly with her hands. Verse 13 of Proverbs 31. She brings food from afar. Oh yes, she's involved, verse 14 points out. And she provides food for her household, verse 15. And she carefully considers and buys, purchases, verse 16 points out. She helps the needy and poor. Oh, she indeed is a busy woman, verse 20. She provides clothing for her family. Are you a busy mother? Busy with your children? Busy taking care of the home, the household, and helping as a producer by taking care of things in the house? You know, there are mechanics who help us keep our vehicles running. Mothers may be mechanics, they may be nurses, they are counselors, they are homemakers, they are the ones who clean. Oh yes, there is so much to be done. And when the husband comes home, if he's tired in the evening, she can console him, have the food, the supper ready. What a wonderful picture or portrait God has drawn for the godly woman, the woman of the home, providing clothing for the family, watching over her household, verse 27 points out. Yes, Proverbs 31 is a beautiful portrait of the godly woman, the woman in the home. Let us bear in mind Paul's description of the widow, that she's to be one who is involved in doing good works. Truly, the mother is to be a homemaker, a teacher of that which is good, loving her husband and loving her children. That's what the world needs, and we need to turn things back upright and start making homes as God would have them be. Why is the house of God forsaken? Why is the family forsaken? Because people have turned away from right doing. I'm Leo Plyler. Good morning.
As we look around us, all the fields are white, ripened unto harvest, and so swiftly comes the night. Christians must get busy, there is work to do. Here's an urgent task awaiting you. Check your fold, my Christian, are the children in? Are there yet some straying, lost in blackened fields of sin? You must go and reach them, go without delay. Soon the shades of night will end the day. Souls are crying, men are dying. Won't you lead them to the cross? Go and find them, help to win them, when the lost at any cost. Go out and win, rescue from sin. Day's almost done, low sinks the sun.